Hello, Middle One. Today we're going to continue with our novel Little Women. Chapter 9. We're going to start at Chapter 9 today, which is called Love Letters. What happened in the last chapter is that Mom came back from Washington because Beth was really ill, and she told Joe that Mr. Brooke is in love with Meg, and he wanted to marry her, but he is waiting to have a good job and to have good money and a good house. Now, what happened in this chapter is that one day Mom found Meg. She came into the room. She looked so worried, and she showed her mother a piece of paper in her hand. What was written in this paper? "My dearest Meg, I can't hide my love for you any longer. I must know how you feel about me before I return. I will find us a house, and then I hope you will be my wife. Please don't tell your family yet. Send your answers through Laurie to your loving John." Then Mom, after reading this piece of paper, Mom had an angry expression on her face. Did you write this, Joe? Mom thought at the first moment that Joe wrote this. And Joe says, "Of course not. I didn't do that." So again, Mother thought that it was Joe who wrote the letter. But Joe said, "I cannot do something horrible like that to Meg. Of course it's not me." So what was really annoying Meg is that she replied to the letter, and then a letter came back telling her that he didn't write any letters. So Meg wrote to Mr. Brooke. She told him that she was too young to marry and that he should speak to father. She said, "I told him I was grateful for his kindness, but I could only be his friend for now." Miss Marsh was relieved. Good girl. And what did he reply? What did Mr. Brooke reply? He says that he didn't write any letters. It must be Joe playing a joke. That moment, Mom realized that Mr. Brooke didn't write the letter or the answer. So at this moment, Mom realized that Joe didn't write anything, and these two letters were from Laurie. And Mom was very angry and asked Joe to go and ask Laurie to come home at once. Okay, when Laurie comes to Mrs. Marsh, she was angry. She shouted at him, and then he left the house. He has a sad face on his face that Joe wanted to forgive him at once. When he came home, Mr. Lawrence he wanted to know what happened at Mrs. Marsh's house. He pushed him, so Laurie was very angry. He went up to his room and he refused to tell his grandfather the secret. When Joe came to talk to Laurie, she found him very angry, and she told him that she's going to convince Mr. Lawrence to apologize to him. Now that's like the main idea of the chapter. Now I want you to open your booklet, chapter 9. We have the question and the answer. We're going to answer together. Meg has all the symptoms of being in love. So the answer, who said this, to whom, and what was the situation? Joe said this to Mother, as Meg doesn't sleep, doesn't eat, and sits in corners daydreaming. She was deeply in love with Mr. Brooke. Number 2. Laurie seemed to know that Joe was keeping a secret from him. Okay, what was the secret? He knew that the secret was about Meg and Mr. Brooke. So he teased her. He annoyed her to try to make her tell him her secret. He knew the secret is about Meg and his tutor. Number 3. It can't be from Mr. Brooke. It must be a trick. So Meg said this to Joe when she entered the room with a piece of paper, and she looked very upset. Number 4. What did Meg write to Mr. Brooke? She wrote an answer. What was her answer? That she's too young to marry and that he should speak to father. Number 5. What was Mr. Brooks' reply to Meg's letter? That he never wrote any love letters and that it must be Joe playing a joke. Of course, Mr. Brooks didn't write any of these 2 letters. Okay, number 6. Mr. Brooks doesn't know anything about the joke. Laurie, of course, said this to Meg, looking very ashamed and regretful. Regretful means that he felt sorry for what he did. Number 7. Did Meg forgive Laurie, and why? Yes, when she saw his sorry face, she forgave him at once. Why did Mr. Lawrence get angry? Because Laurie wouldn't tell him why he had gone to the Marshes' house. Why didn't Laurie tell his grandfather? Because he promised Mrs. Marsh that he's not going to say anything. Number 9, he wouldn't apologize. He is too stubborn. Laurie said this to Joe. Laurie wanted to travel and not to tell his grandfather about it. Did Mr. Lawrence give Laurie an apology, and why? Yes, he did, after he told him that Laurie promised Mrs. Marsh not to talk about his visit to their house. So that's all for today, and next time we are going to continue with chapter 10.